Juan Ponce Enrile for nearly a century. That name has echoed through the halls of power in the Philippines, a man of immense intellect, political cunning, and controversy. His life story is intertwined with the most dramatic and turbulent moments in the nation's modern history. From a humble beginning to the heights of power, from a dictator's right-hand man to a revolutionary figure, his journey is a complex tapestry of ambition, survival, and reinvention. Today, we unravel the life of one of the Philippines' most enduring and divisive political titans. Born on Valentine's Day in 1924 in the northern province of Cagayan, Juan Ponce Enrile's early life was far from privileged. He grew up in hardship, unaware for years that his biological father was a prominent politician and lawyer. It was a reality he would only discover after the chaos of World War II, a conflict that shaped his generation. This early struggle seemed to forge a relentless drive within him. He pursued education with fierce determination, earning a law degree from the prestigious University of the Philippines. But he didn't stop there. His ambition took him to one of the world's most elite institutions, Harvard Law School. Armed with a world-class legal education, Enrile returned to the Philippines and entered the world of public service. It was in the 1960s that his path crossed with a rising political star named Ferdinand Marcos. This meeting would change the course of his life and the nation's history. Recognizing Enrile's sharp legal mind, Marcos brought him into his inner circle. As Marcos's power grew, so did Enrile's. By 1968, he was appointed Justice Secretary. This was just the beginning. As the political climate in the Philippines grew more volatile, Marcos came to rely on Enrile for one of the most critical roles in his government, Secretary of National Defense. In this position, Enrile became deeply involved in matters of national security, defense policy, and the shadowy world of political maneuvering. He was no longer just a lawyer. He was now a central pillar of the Marcos administration, a gatekeeper of its power. And then came 1972. This year marks the most defining and controversial chapter of Enrile's career. As the architect and implementer of Ferdinand Marcos's declaration of martial law, Enrile was instrumental in ushering in one of the darkest periods in Philippine history. With the stroke of a pen, democracy was suspended, and the nation was placed under military rule. As Minister of National Defense, Enrile wielded enormous power. He oversaw a rapidly expanding military and security apparatus. This era was marked by widespread and severe human rights abuses. Political opponents were arrested, dissent was brutally suppressed, and a climate of fear gripped the nation. Because of his central role in the regime, critics and human rights organizations have long held Enrile accountable for the atrocities committed during this time. His name became synonymous with the repression of the martial law years, but his influence wasn't limited to defense. Enrile also became a key player in the economy. He was involved in various industries, most notably logging operations, which allowed him to build a significant personal fortune and expand his network of political and economic influence. He was at the absolute zenith of his power, one of the most feared and influential men in the country, second only to Marcos himself. For over a decade, Enrile was one of Marcos's most loyal and powerful allies. But in the world of high-stakes politics, alliances are rarely permanent. By the mid-1980s, the Marcos regime was beginning to crumble under the weight of economic crisis, political instability, and growing public discontent. Cracks started to appear within the administration, and the relationship between Marcos and his defense minister grew strained. The breaking point came in February 1986. In a move that stunned the nation and the world, Juan Ponce Enrile, along with the Vice Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces, Fidel Ramos, publicly withdrew their support from President Marcos. They barricaded themselves in the military headquarters along a main thoroughfare called EDSA, preparing for a final confrontation. Their defection was the spark that ignited a fire. It was the critical trigger for what became the People Power Revolution. Millions of ordinary citizens flooded the streets, forming a human shield to protect Enrile and the rebel soldiers, peacefully demanding an end to the dictatorship. Within days, the Marcos family fled the country, and their 20-year rule was over. Enrile, the architect of martial law, had transformed into a hero of the revolution that toppled it. This dramatic turn of events cemented his reputation as a master political survivor. But the fall of Marcos was not the end of Enrile's story. It was merely the beginning of a new chapter. He seamlessly transitioned from a key figure in an authoritarian regime to a statesman in the restored democracy. In 1987, he was elected to the Senate, beginning a long and distinguished career as a legislator. He became a fixture in the upper house, known for his sharp debating skills and encyclopedic knowledge of the law. His political journey culminated in him being elected as Senate President. Serving from 2008 to 2013, one of the most powerful positions in the Philippine government. For decades, he remained a formidable force in national politics, outlasting his contemporaries and influencing generations of leaders. Even into his late 90s, when most would have long retired, Enrile's political life was not over. In a twist that seemed to bring his story full circle, he was appointed in 2022 as the Chief Presidential Legal Counsel by President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr., the son of the very man he helped overthrow. Despite his incredible longevity and political success, Enrile's career was constantly shadowed by controversy and scandal. The ghost of martial law never fully left him. Human rights groups and victims of the dictatorship consistently pointed to his role as defense minister, arguing that he bore responsibility for the era's repression and violence. Then, in 2014, another major scandal erupted. Enrile was charged with plunder and graft in connection with the massive Priority Development Assistance Fund, or pork barrel, scam. The accusation was that he had misused millions in public funds. It was a scandal that rocked the nation and implicated several high-profile politicians. Enrile was arrested and detained. It seemed his long career might end in disgrace. But in another remarkable twist of fate, after years of legal battles, the court acquitted him of the charges. Once again, Juan Ponce Enrile had survived. His legacy is, therefore, deeply contested to some. He is a brilliant legal mind, a shrewd strategist, and a dedicated public servant who played a crucial role at pivotal moments in the nation's history. To others, he is a symbol of authoritarian abuse and political corruption, a man who consistently placed power and survival above all else. Juan Ponce Enrile passed away on November 13, 2025, at the remarkable age of 101. According to his family, he died peacefully at home, having been hospitalized earlier for pneumonia. His death marked the end of an era. Tributes poured in. The armed forces of the Philippines mourned him, remembering his long tenure as Defense Secretary. President Marcos Jr. declared that his passing marked the close of a chapter in our nation's history. Acknowledging his decades of service and his undeniable impact on national policy. So, how do we make sense of such a life? Imagine a young, ambitious lawyer returning to a war-torn country. He's brilliant and hungry for influence. He attaches his wagon to a charismatic leader, Ferdinand Marcos, and together they rise. He becomes more than a lawyer. He becomes a power broker, helping to design the very framework of martial law, embedding himself deep within the regime. But power is never static. As he senses the ground shifting beneath the dictatorship, he makes a daring gamble. He breaks with Marcos, aligns himself with the forces of change, and helps ignite a revolution. Yet his ambition never fades. He reinvents himself as a democratic legislator, navigating scandals, surviving accusations, and always staying relevant. In his final act, he returns to the presidential palace to advise the son of the man he once helped depose. Juan Ponce Enrile's life was a masterclass in political survival. He was a man who both built and dismantled a dictatorship, who served presidents and outlived them, who was both revered and reviled. His death leaves behind a legacy that is as awe-inspiring as it is troubling. He was a man who didn't just witness history, he actively shaped it, for better and for worse. His story is, in many ways, the story of the modern Philippines, itself complex, contradictory, and endlessly fascinating. Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into the figures who have shaped our world. See you next time.